How does a quarterback in 1968 for the Denver Broncos end up leading the AFC in pass receptions in 1970 for the Buffalo Bills? Marlin Briscoe is considered the first black quarterback to start a game in the modern NFL/AFL. His 17.1 yards per completion led the AFL in 1968. He passed for 14 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, with a low 41.5 completion percentage. And he chipped in with 308 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, and a terrific 7.5 yards per carry. Even though he ended the season by starting the last 4 games, Denver released him and he signed with Buffalo on August 21st, 1969. Just 2 years after playing quarterback, he led the AFC with 57 receptions in 1970. To add to the unlikelihood of Briscoe's feat is that a rookie was throwing the passes, Dennis Shaw, who started 12 games and was the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Buffalo's War Memorial Stadium was built in 1937 for $3 million and was known colloquially as the Rock Pile. Shaw took his lumps. He was sacked 41 times, second most in the NFL. Giants' Bob Tucker paid his dues. In 1968, he played for the Lowell Giants, and in 1969 for the Pottstown Firebirds, both of the Atlantic Coast Football League. Both seasons, he led the league in catches, yards, and touchdowns. In 1969, he was on the Eagles taxi squad for 6 games, and in 1970, he signed a free agent contract with the Giants. He was unlikely to lead the NFL in receptions during the 1971 season because he was a long shot to even start. He was undrafted and bounced around. Plus, he was a tight end in only his second NFL season. And tight ends rarely led conferences in receptions. Tucker did not play in the first 2 games of the year to make his accomplishment even that more unlikely. And here's a couple more catches that could have been added to his total of 59. From 1973 through 1976, Tucker played Giants home games at 4 different stadiums. Maybe it's just me, but didn't Tucker bear some resemblance to actor Fred Gwynne? Undrafted out of Boston University, Reggie Rucker signed with the Cowboys as a free agent in 1969 and played on their practice squad. In 1970, he broke a wrist in training camp and was placed on their taxi squad until Week 8. Starting in Week 13, Rucker started instead of troubled Lance Rensel throughout the playoffs, including the Super Bowl. In 1971, he caught one pass before Dallas waived him. The Giants picked him up, but then they waived him after he only caught one pass. Then the Patriots picked him up, and he caught two passes for them in 1971. In 1974, Week 4, he broke his other wrist and played 6 games wearing a cast. On January 28, 1975, he was traded to the Browns for their 4th-round draft pick, Alan Carter from USC. Why was it unlikely that Rucker tied for the 1975 AFC lead with 60 catches? Well, he had 2 recent broken wrists, and he was in the first season with the Browns. Talk about being quickly acclimated to your new team. Rucker could have been the sole AFC leader if it wasn't for Old Man Willie Brown, who was 35 years old in 1975 and would go on to play 3 more seasons in his Hall of Fame career. MacArthur Lane was a 1968 first-round draft pick from Utah State by the Cardinals. In 1970, his 977 rushing yards was the 3rd most in the NFL. On February 22, 1972, he was traded even up for fellow running back Donnie Anderson. After 3 years in Green Bay, Kansas City traded their 1976 third-round draft pick for Lane. After never catching more than 34 passes in a single season, he busted out in 1976 when he caught 66 passes. While with the Cardinals, he was primarily known as a runner who could go through defenders, over them, or cruise right on by. He was adept at the occasional screen pass play, however. The Chiefs' head coach was a second-year man, Paul Wiggin, who oversaw a team with the 9th most passing attempts in 1975 to a pass-happy outfit in 1976, who passed the 2nd most times. Tony Adams passed 71 times and played with the Chiefs from 1975 through 1978. After an 8-year layoff, he started 3 games for the Vikings in 1987. That's got to be the longest layoff of all time. This next receiver had a very fast start to his career. Then it was turned upside down rather quickly. In 1973, the Eagles made tight end Charlie Young the 6th overall selection in the draft. Out of USC, his 6'4", 235-pound frame was a frequent inviting target for Eagles quarterbacks. He was third in the NFL in receptions as a rookie and led the NFC with 63 in 1974. He was an unlikely conference leader because he was a tight end for one. Secondly, he was only playing in his second year. And thirdly, his teammate Harold Carmichael had just led the NFL in catches the year before. Charlie Young was traded to the Rams for quarterback Ron Jaworski in March 1977. That temporarily turned his career upside down, because after making the Pro Bowl each of his first 3 seasons and being named either first or second team All-Pro all of those years, he only caught 5 passes. And that's because he couldn't beat out Terry Nelson for the starting job. Wide receiver Dick Gordon came up big in 1970, but he wasn't expected to because the Bears had the second most rushing yards in 1969, and the entire offense revolved around superstar running back Gale Sayers. However, he suffered a second knee injury in the 1970 preseason, hurt it a third time in Week 4 after sitting out the previous 2 weeks, and had to have surgery the following week, which ended his season. Quarterback Jack Concannon was in his 7th season in 1970, and he had all kinds of issues. Issues that certainly wouldn't make you think that a Bears receiver would lead the NFC in receptions that year. His passer rating was 19th out of 24 qualifiers. Sometimes the best plan was to simply toss the ball to number 29 Ronnie Bull and let him do the passing. Second-year quarterback Bobby Douglas also fired away, sometimes to the opposition. But on other occasions, he hit pay dirt.